Hey everybody, it is Tom Duff with St. Louis Counseling. Check us out at stlouiscounseling.org. And I am here to talk about some everyday quick tips and techniques when it comes to mental health. Why? Because we all have mental health. So today I'm going to talk about prepping your kids to go back to school. Why? Because our kids need routine and structure. If you don't believe that, trust me, kids need routine and structure. They actually want routine and structure. They just don't always know it yet. So, first of all, we need to paint a picture of what school's going to look like when we go back. Now, every year there's a transition with school. Don't get me wrong. There's always a transition from summer back to school. But this year could be a little bit different. So we need to paint that picture on what it's going to look like. Mask versus no mask, social distancing, activities that parents can go to or not. The reason we prep kids on that is to prep them one way or another. Because if kids go in with unrealistic expectations, then that messes up their routine and their structure. So it's really important that we kind of play out both scenarios. So it's kind of the best case scenario and the worst case scenario, and letting kids know things will happen somewhere in between that. So it's important to make sure that they're aware going into the school year on what could or could not happen. We need to also reflect on last year's school successes. And what I mean by that is this past year, and first of all, it's always good to focus on success, right? But let's look at this past year when we're prepping kids to go into this next school year. The importance of that is if we do go into mask protocols or quarantines, that we can reflect back on how things did end up and how there was some positive attributes and how kids did get through the school year wearing masks inside of classrooms, being 6 feet apart at times. And the reality is if we focus on those successes, they know that they can be able to meet those new issues that will arise in a new school year. Don't get caught, my third little tip is don't get caught into expressing your frustrations about the upcoming school year in front of your kids. It's sometimes easier said than done. I understand that. But our kids are listening to us. Our kids are paying attention to what we say and what our vibe is, what our aura, how we're presenting the issue, right? And they carry that themselves. And it could be undue stress that they're carrying that they don't need to carry. Or they go in with a negative vibe about the school year and about if we have to wear masks or not. So we don't want our kids saying things like, I better not have to wear a mask, or you better not keep me away from my friends with my 6 feet of social distancing. So be careful what our kids pick up from us, because they will model that into the school year. Teachers have it hard enough as it is, right? So let's not make it even harder on them. Now, a lot of times what I hear also is, how do I know if my child, my kid is experiencing something that's outside the norm, right? So there's a difference that we need to look at if there's a pattern of issues, right? So the normal end of the summer, I'm going back to school, versus I have to go back into another school year of COVID protocols. So our kids may already be feeling some of that tension, feeling some of that anxiety. We're a month and a few weeks away from going back into schools. So one of the major things to monitor is communication with our kids. What are they telling us through their communication? And communication means verbal, nonverbal, and written in that sense, right? Even though you could say nonverbal is written, but a lot of times when I think about communication and nonverbals, it's my body gestures, it's my slumping in the chair, it's how I'm communicating that way. But vocally, what are they saying? What are they actually saying? I'm worried about if I'm going to have to go back and wear a mask in school. I'm not looking forward to that. I know that's going to happen. Are they saying things like that? Is it day in and day out? So that's where the pattern would exist, all right? Their nonverbal communication. If you talk about school, does their body automatically get tense, or do they slump their shoulders down? Do they look worried in that sense? So what are they're showing us in that way? And written. What are they writing to friends, through email, through text, and through social media sites, and all the apps? We have to pay attention. Parents, you all have heard this before. We have to monitor what our kids are writing and what they're reading as well too. The written part of that, and from a social media perspective, what groups are they a part of? As for us as well too, but for our kids, who are they surrounding themselves with, and what is that message? Is it a positive message? Is it a negative message? These are all things that we look for patterns. So if you are worried about how your kid may be prepping for school year, and if they got the something outside of the normal, ugh, I'm going back to school. If it's more about, oh no, I'm going back into COVID school regulations. Look at those three things. Look at what they're trying to tell us through verbal, nonverbal, and written communications. It is really important. And if you have questions about that, find us at stlouiscounseling.org. And until next time, Tom Duff, and remember, mental health matters.